This is Histories and Mysteries. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Jessica. And on this week's episode, Ashley is going to be talking about the West Memphis Three.
Yep.
And I am going to be talking about the Centralia mine fire.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it's kind of
we have a theme.
We have a theme going on. So
and it's our 100th episode. Woo! Which is why we are video recording to release our video for our 100th episode.
Yay!
Very exciting. And we'll launch a YouTube page as well with this one.
Yeah. So if you guys want to follow us there too, where ever you listen to podcasts, if you want to follow us on YouTube, please follow us.
Yeah, we'll put our link in the show notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as we said, we have a bit of a Stranger Things theme. Both Jessica and I are really big fans of Stranger Things, and we were just talking about it, and I was like, I might do the West Memphis Three because Jessica's boyfriend Eddie
I love him. I get him in every BuzzFeed quiz.
Let's get Steve's my man.
So does my husband. Every single time he's gotten Steve as well, and then I have you do it too, and you always get Steve.
Steve is that scene where she was tying the bandage around his whip.
Send that to me.
I needed a minute after that. That was real.
Literally, when Eddie is being like really cutesy with Chrissy is what gets me.
Yeah, that's really cute.
Yeah.
But I also feel really good about having such a huge crush on Steve because in real life he's 30. So I feel really okay with that.
Oh, yeah, that's good for you. You're not as much of a creeper.
Yeah, exactly. He's 30 years old. So I'm good.
Yeah, it's nice and close in age.
Yeah. But yeah, so Eddie's character actually, it's the Duffer Brothers, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So they came out and said that he's kind of loosely based on Damien Echols, who is one of the West Memphis Three. So I thought, well, I listened to this other podcast called True Crime Obsessed, and one of the hosts, Jillian, is really good friends with Damien and his wife. And so she talks about the West Memphis Three case a lot, but I didn't really know much about it. So I was like, you know what, maybe I'll do that. And we can kind of, because, Stranger Things just came out and people are talking about how he's based off of him. And I was like, I want to know more about it. So maybe other people do too. So I was kind of talking to Jessica about it. And then she's like, hey, you know what? My husband recommended this case where like this whole fucking ground opens up like in Stranger Things. Spoiler alert. We should probably put that in our show notes.
Yeah, probably.
So this is kind of a little bit of a Stranger Things theme that we got.
Yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to hearing your story because I don't think I've ever heard of it.
It's pretty sad. It's pretty sad. But I will have my unicorn cup that I will be drinking from to make it happier. So,
and I'll have my signed poster from Brendan Fraser in the background to help me through. Every time I get sad, I'll just.
Now, Jessica, here's a question for you. If you had to choose between Brendan Fraser. Okay. And Eddie, who would you pick?
Nope. Brendan Fraser, because he's a human being and Eddie's just a character in a show.
Okay, but what if Eddie was real?
Are we talking about like Brendan Fraser or Rick O'Connell?
Which one do you like better?
I kind of like Rick better because then he'll also be on the same playing field as Eddie because they're fake characters.
True.
But they're from like two different periods that I love. So
it's too hard. It's too hard.
Like my heart, one part of my heart is saying Rick O'Connell, Brendan Fraser, because he's the OG. And then my other half is like, but Eddie.
Eddie is adorable.
I weirdly don't find him attractive as himself in real life as much as I love Eddie.
I think Eddie's personality
yes
really made him. I think personally I would have to go with Rick because he's a badass, which Eddie is too, but like he's
Eddie
a badass.
died being a horror. I mean, a hero.
A horror.
He died in a horror.
It's true. He was also a badass, but like Rick is like a real big badass. Like he fought a mummy and then like a demon mummy and
multiple mummies and then a weird ass scorpion guy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, and all those dead bodies that were pulling him and Emotep down into like the underworld.
Yeah. He
so creepy.
Yeah, and he was also funny, and the hair, man.
Oh,
had great hair.
The hair.
Yeah.
Oh, what a smoke show. Rachel Weisz though too.
Oh yeah, she's gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. And for those of you that are actually watching the video this time, you're probably going to get to see how much I actually sniffle that we edit out.
Yeah. Or the amount of times that we're like yawning in the background because we're recording at like 8:00 at night and we're old grandmas.
Yeah. No. So speaking of which, let's get into this. So I got my sources from this amazing famous trials webpage. So they broke it down. They had everything. I also went to Arkansas Times and the Innocent Project because they took up the West Memphis Three case.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And this is obviously like, again, it's a very broad view, but you can get so much more deep into the trial. So definitely check it out if you want more information. That famous trials page, it's got so much information. So if you want more, check them out for sure. All right. I got a little snarky with this first paragraph while I was typing it. So here we go.
Not you.
Ever since the dawn of time, humans as a population have sucked. And then I typed, ha ha ha, just kidding, kind of. But
not really.
Throughout our history, we've always had some type of panic or like social issue that we like to blame everything on. So whether it was a group of people like Hitler's war on any non-Christian white person or the Republican war on any non-Christian white person. And then I wrote
everything. ...
Oops. Or a supernatural reason like witches, right?
Oh, yeah.
And we like to think that in the modern day and age, we're much more level-headed and wouldn't damn people based on supernatural reasons. But in the 80s and 90s, we learned that's not the case because we had a little thing called the Satanic Panic.
What?
Sounds pretty metal, right?
Is it?
Well, to 3 young teenagers, it was anything but.
Oh, no. Oh, Eddie.
In one of the most famous cases of Satanic Panic, 3 boys ages 16 to 18 were sentenced to death, life in prison. So one of them got sentenced to death, and then the other 2 got life in prison without parole on little to no evidence, and mostly based on the fact that they were goth, and therefore they must worship the devil.
What?
Yeah.
I feel like I've heard the name, like the West Memphis Three.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've heard it like a lot about it, but now that you're saying that they're just like teenagers, I'm like, I don't know if I know what it is, but like you hear West Memphis Three a lot.
Yeah. So the murder itself is actually a really sad story. So 3 young boys were riding their bikes in May of 1993. Their names were Chris Byers, Michael Moore, and Stevie Branch.
Chris Myers?
Byers.
Oh, yeah, like Will Byers.
Yeah. And they were all in 2nd grade. So how old are you in 2nd grade? Like, I don't know, 7?
Yeah, like 6 or 7, yeah.
Yeah. So they were all in 2nd grade. At about 8 p.m. on May 5th, John Byers, Chris's dad, called the police to say his son was missing. He said he last saw him doing some yard work at 5:30 p.m. Then 2 more calls came in. The parents of Michael and Stevie also said their boys were missing. Dana, Michael's mom, said that she saw her son riding bikes with 2 friends around 6 p.m., but he never made it back for dinner. And the third parent said that she hadn't seen her son since he had left for school. So police immediately started searching the area, but it was already getting dark and they couldn't find anything. Unfortunately, the next day, police found the bodies of the 3 boys in the local river.
What? That is not where I saw that going.
Well, these aren't the West Memphis Three.
No, I know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So trigger warning. All of the triggers, all of the warnings. This next part is so bad that after I wrote it, I had to take a break.
Oh, this is what you're telling me. Okay.
Yeah. So it also doesn't help that I have a son. So this is, but okay. All 3 boys were naked. Again, remember they're 6 or 7. They had their wrists tied to their ankles with a shoestring. And Chris's scrotum was gone and his penis was skinned.
They're just babies.
And they did that before he died.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Could you even imagine going through that and, being the parent kind of on the sidelines, not knowing what happened?
No.
I don't know how people do it.
I don't either. I wrote in here, I had to take a break.
Oh, yeah. I don't.
So, because of the nature of these crimes, the Satanic Panic took full force. They decided that this had to be satanic or cult ritual-like because of what happened to Chris's body. And in comes the West Memphis Three. So Damien Echols, who is the one that our Dear Dear Eddie is based on, he moved around a ton as a kid. In fact, he had attended 8 schools before the age of 10.
What?
Yeah. And because of this, and probably I would assume just kind of like being behind, he was 17 in 9th grade.
Oh, poor guy.
Yeah. So you can imagine that all of this moving around and not being with your peers, like being a 17-year-old with a bunch of 14 or 15-year-olds, made Damien an outcast. And he really leaned into this. He dressed in all black. He listened to heavy metal music. He wrote really dark poetry. He was also a Wiccan, which he still practices to this day. And he had a history of depression and threatening behavior. He had even spent some time in a psychiatric hospital under a suicide watch.
Oh.
He had threatened his ex-girlfriend and her new boyfriend. He also spent some time in juvenile detention where he bit the arm of another kid and tried to suck his blood.
What?
Yeah, I just really think he was trying to play into that. If I'm going to be an outcast, I'm really going to be an outcast,
Yeah.
And he actually ended up dropping out of high school at the age of 17. So he made it to about 9th grade.
Oh, poor guy.
Yeah. The social worker that he saw regularly did report in her notes that Echols told her that he might become another Charles Manson or a Ted Bundy.
And she did nothing about that?
Well, I mean, he was already seeing therapy. He was going to therapy and seeing her. So, I mean, he was doing something about it. But he also had evil tattooed across his fingers. So he was the perfect scapegoat for the police.
100%.
Yeah. They had him take a polygraph test, which he failed, and he soon became the #1 suspect, which we all know polygraph tests are junk. So
they're for goobers.
Mm-hmm.
It honestly is sounding like Eddie.
Yeah.
Especially because he was held back and, this outcast is playing into it. And then they say that he had a cult and this is kind of like culty Satanic Panic.
Yep.
And
That's
100%. So cool.
Yeah. He also had a friend who also had evil tattooed across his fingers. So he must have been in on it too, Jessica.
Oh my goodness.
And his name was Jason Baldwin. So he's one of the other.
Same tattoos means you're together.
Evil. So again, they started looking into Eddie. They started looking into Damien and Jason.
Ew, Jason, boo.
Oh, that was the shitty kid. Oh, well, in this one, he's one of the West Memphis Three.
Oh.
So he's not you in this one.
I really enjoyed how he went.
I hated him more than I hated Vecna.
Yes.
He was awful.
Yes, because like with Vecna, you get this really like deep backstory into how he became who he was. Yeah, kind of like you knew him as a person. He was great. And then
Jason was just like an entitled wet white dude.
Yeah, that just had a psychotic break.
Yeah. I almost said wet dude. He was white, not wet. But
tomato.
You know. So they also stumbled upon kind of a weird witness. Her name was Vicky Hutchison. And she was actually in the police station for something else unrelated. She had her son Aaron with her, and Aaron was like kind of, one of the cops was kind of like talking to him, probably trying to keep him busy or whatever. And Aaron had mentioned that the three boys that had gone missing, because this was before they had found their bodies, were his like best friends.
Oh.
So they started talking to him about it, and Vicky said that she believed the murders were cult related, and that this boy who worked with her, Jessi, Miss Kelly, who would like babysit for her and do like lawn mowing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So he hung out with Damien and had said that him and Damien and his friends and stuff would like drink blood and stuff.
Oh, and this kid is like a little kid?
No. This is Vicky's like employee, Jessi, Miss Kelly.
Oh.
He would like babysit for her and mow her lawn and stuff like that.
Yes. Sorry. That was
you're
5 minutes ago.
Yeah. We paused for some water breaks, but so Vicky said that she would play detective and get an introduction to Damien through Jessi, so that she could kind of get the lowdown, which is weird to me. Why would you go out of your way to do that? But I'll tell you why in a little bit, Jess.
Okay. I'm excited.
Also, FYI, Jessi had an extremely low IQ.
Aww. Why are they targeting those little, like, why? Yeah.
So anyway, everyone involved thought that this was a good idea for Vicky to play detective for some reason. So off she went to meet Damien Eccles. And this is the story that Vicky told police had happened after she met Damien. She told investigators that on the night of May 19th, she and Jessi were driven by Damien in a red Ford Escort, which Damien never owned a red Ford Escort, to an espat, which is a gathering of witches. She said it was in a field outside of town where she encountered 10 young people, each with faces and arms painted black, stripping off their clothes and touching each other. She claimed those participating in the orgy used nicknames like Spider, Snake, and Lucifer.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. She said that she was offended by all the naked activity. And according to her, she asked Damien to drive her back home, and he did, and left Jessi there at the orgy. Aaron, who was her 8-year-old son, also met with detectives, and he said that him and the 3 boys that were murdered often visited Robin Hood Woods together. That's where they had originally thought the boys went missing and where the river was. And then on one visit to the woods, they saw 5 men sitting in a circle chanting and doing, quote, what men and ladies do. They had Vicky take a polygraph test, and oddly enough, she passed it. But that's quite a tale, right? Like, so after this talk with Vicky and her son, they decided to go pick up Jessi and interview him. So mind you, his IQ was 72. The average IQ is between 85 and 115. And someone who is considered mentally handicapped has an IQ below 70 to 75. So he was on the low end of that. And police knew this, but they interrogated him anyway.
Of course they did.
Yeah, they interrogated him for 12 hours. And they gave him a polygraph test that he failed, but he was probably just scared and like didn't really have the mental capacity to understand what was going on.
Yeah.
So over this 12 hours of questioning, they constantly were telling him that he was a liar. They were saying, you know, there's a $35,000 reward that your family can have if you have information, you know, if you confessed. And Jessi later on said this of his interrogation, quote, I kept telling Inspector Gitchell and Detective Ridge, I don't know who did it. I just knew of it, what my friend had told me, but they kept hollering at me. They kept saying they knew I had something to do with it because other people had told them. After I told them what the three boys were wearing, Gary Gitchell told me, was any of them tied up? That's when I went along with him. I repeated what he told me. I said, yes, they were tied up. He asked, what was they tied up with? I told him rope. He got mad. He told me, God damn it, Jessi, don't mess with me. He said, no, they was tied up with shoestrings. I had to go through the story again until I got it right. They hollered at me until I got it right. So whatever he was telling me, I started telling him back. But I figured something was wrong because if I'd have killed him, I'd have known how I done it.
Jeez.
Yeah. So even there with just that last sentence, you know, if I had killed them, I would have known how I did it. Like, you know, it's just, you can tell like he's just not mentally capable of this.
No, not at all.
Yeah. He also told the police that the murders happened during the day, but they actually happened at night. So there was like a lot of things that he was just trying to like tell them what they wanted, but he wasn't getting the details right because he didn't do it. And but once he finally got the details right, they taped his confession. And that was enough for the detectives to go arrest the two other boys. After this, to secure more evidence, police went back to Vicky's son Aaron and asked him more questions. And this time his story changed.
Of course it did.
Yeah. Remember, Aaron's 8, you know, yes. So he's like, this whole thing's stupid. But anyway, so now he said that he saw the three boys murder the kids. He said he received a call the night before the murders from Jessi Miss Kelly, inviting him to bring his 3 friends to the woods the next day where they would all do something. Once there, Aaron said Jessi, Jason, and Damien slapped his friends. Aaron said, I ran and Jessi caught me. Then I got away and he caught me again. He tied me up. I stayed there for about 40 seconds and got untied. Asked by Gitchell how he was tied up, Aaron said, oh, with a rope. Aaron said they couldn't hurt me because I kicked every one of them with a foot.
What?
Meanwhile, he said his friends got stabbed and then had their clothes pulled off. Then he said they cut off the private spot. And from a distance, he watched as the 3 teens raped Michael, Chris, and Steve.
Oh my goodness.
So he is obviously also getting details wrong.
Yes.
So with all of this evidence that they have,
the many piles of
many evidence piles, off they go to pretrial. So in the pretrial, the judge ruled that Jessi would be tried separate from the other boys, but that all 3 would be tried as adults.
Why?
I think because Jessi confessed. And I think that his confession, he wasn't the one that actually murdered them. I want to say
he was kind of like the jumping off point.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So
Jessi's trial was first. Prosecution tried to explain away the inconsistencies in his stories by saying that it was because he was trying to minimize his role and that he was just as equally guilty, but that's why he was inconsistent in his story because he was kind of lying. He then interviewed the parents of the 3 boys that had been murdered. He showed the horrible pictures of the murdered boys. And I mean, this is a heart-wrenching case. So with all of this, the jury probably wanted them to be guilty, so that the killers of this horrible case were caught.
Yeah.
And, they ruled with emotion over facts. The detective said that Jessi was very relaxed during his interrogation, and then they played the tape for his interrogation. And when they asked about Jessi's confusion, like the errors in his story, he's like, oh, he just got confused was all. And I bet he was very relaxed because, again, he wasn't mentally capable of understanding the gravity of the situation he was in.
Yeah.
So police didn't call Aaron, their eyewitness, to the stand.
Well, why wouldn't they?
Because he's 8, right? And who knows what he's going to say on stand.
Yeah.
But they did call his mom. And she talked about the witchy stuff and blah, 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 blah. They also called a state crime lab employee named Lisa. And she testified that a green polyester fiber found on a Cub Scout cap of one of the boys was microscopically similar to fibers found on a shirt in Damien's house. And that a red rayon fiber found near the bodies was also microscopically similar to the fiber of a red bathrobe found in Jessi's home. But Lisa admitted that the results did not imply that either the shirt or the bathrobe was worn by the murderers at the crime scene, but that it was possible the fibers were carried to the crime scene by a secondary transfer. She also said that there's a lot of fibers in the world that are microscopically similar, and that basically the discovery really didn't prove anything. And that's it. That's the prosecution's case.
Oh my God. That's hilarious.
Right? But the jury found him guilty.
Oh, no.
And they sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Just because you're a little different doesn't mean that you're
a murderer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What the frig?
Yeah. All right. So then came Damien and Jason's trial. And Jessi said that he wasn't going to testify against them. So the prosecution had very little to go on, but damn, did they try. In a later testimony, Ridge reported, that was the detective, that during Damien's long interrogation at the police station, he had claimed that all persons hold demonic forces inside them. He talked about the mystical significance of water and noted that 3, the number of boys killed, of course, was a sacred number in the Wicca religion.
Okay.
And Jessica, I mean, this next part,
it's just gonna put me over, right?
Yeah, it's gonna for sure tell you that he's guilty.
Yeah. Okay, let's go.
He read a lot of books by Stephen King. Guilty as charged.
Oh, my husband would be guilty then. Yeah.
He also wore all black.
Oh my God, I do too. Oh no, I'm in a cult.
And he carried knives. And when they searched his house, they found, are you ready for this? 11 black t-shirts. Crazy.
Oh my God.
They also found a book called Never on a Broomstick. I don't know what that book is. And The Skull of a Dog, which is a little weird, but you know.
Skull of the Dog was probably like a freaking comic book.
No, like a legit skull of a dog.
Oh, I thought you because you're talking about what he was reading.
Yeah, no,
and
sorry.
then all of a sudden it's like,
and they found a skull of a dog. Yeah.
Okay. Like what?
The prosecutor also made a point to point out that it was a full moon on May 5th.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
They called in an occult expert from Ohio.
As you do.
And he testified that the number 3 was one of the most powerful numbers in the practice of satanic belief. When he was cross-examined, they were like, doesn't 3 also have a special significance in the Christian religion? Because it does. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, right?
Yeah.
And the occult expert said, I cannot make that statement.
It's literally what you're there for.
Right. So then they asked him the significance of sucking the blood, and the cult expert said blood is the life force, and usually they prefer to have a child that is young, very young, and the younger, the more innocent, the better the life force.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
They also called a guy named Michael Carson to the stand, and he shared that he was in juvenile detention with Jason. And he said that Jason admitted to him that he had dismembered the kids and sucked the blood from the penis and the scrotum and put the balls in his mouth. He said that he came forward with this information because he knew how brokenhearted the parents were, and that he had a soft heart and he couldn't take it, Jess. He couldn't take it.
He couldn't not say anything, huh?
He could not.
What a little turtling.
They also had two girls who were at school said they overheard Damien confess to murdering the three boys at a softball game. So I do have to say here, if I was on a jury, right, and you told me that three people said that they had heard them say that they did it, I might believe it. The only problem is they don't have any other evidence. That's all they have.
Yeah, it's just hearsay, right?
Exactly. Like, yeah. I might believe it, but there wouldn't be enough evidence to convict them.
Yeah.
Which I don't believe it. I don't think these guys did it at all. But if I was on the jury and I heard only that, you know.
Especially back then too, right? Yeah. Because this was like in the 60s or 70s, right? So
90s.
What?
It was in the 90s.
Oh yeah, 1993, the year I was born.
Yeah.
I just always thought that Satanic Panic happened way earlier.
80s and 90s.
Oh.
Yeah. I said that in the very first sentence of my story, Jessica.
That was however long ago it was. I heard you then. And I just have to keep moving that information out to make way for all the other information.
Exactly.
Coming in my brain.
So there was widespread criticism of how the crime scene was handled. The defense attorney said that there were tons of errors at the crime scene. They said it was, quote, literally trampled, especially the creek bed. They said that the bodies had been removed from the water before the coroner even arrived, like quite a while before the coroner arrived. So that kind of messed with a lot of things as well, because they were exposed to sunlight and insects.
Yeah. The
police, they found a floating shoe, and they didn't call the coroner for another 2 hours. But just from a floating shoe, I don't know why they would have called the coroner, but that was something that.
Well, unless it was, I don't know.
Yeah.
I had an idea, and then the idea sounded stupid in my head, so. So it doesn't get to escape my mouth.
Okay. They also said that they didn't drain the creek in a timely manner. And there was a small amount of blood found at the scene that they had never tested.
What?
So there was just a lot of. Sorry, my notes went weird here. And they also said that police records were a mess. They said they were everywhere. And they said that this was a really small town. And so they had never had a case like this before. And so they were kind of in over their head. But so all of this kind of played into just this really bad handling of this case. But unfortunately, after all of that, it didn't matter. Both the boys were found guilty. Jason was sentenced to life without parole, but Damien was sentenced to death by lethal injection.
Why?
So they made this decision by listing the boys' pros and cons.
The one time a pros and cons list isn't
helpful.
Welcome.
All right. So they listened to a ton of testimony, and then they went back in and they made the pros and cons list for both Jason and Damien. Jason had several pros, such as he stuck to his story, he exhibited remorse, he was in school, he got cons for being Damien's best friend.
So rude.
I know. His
Fucking
jailhouse
rude.
confession, his low self-esteem, that he supposedly frequented the crime scene. But poor Damien only got pros for being intelligent and manic depressive and
That's
for
a
having a
pro?
loyal family. Yeah, I don't. And sticking to a story. But he had a really long list of negatives that included satanic follower, even though he was Wiccan.
Poor guy.
Not satanic.
Yeah.
Manipulative, dishonest, weird.
Hey, I've been called weird.
Right? He had something to gain. He blew kisses to his parents.
Aww.
He had inappropriate thought patterns. And so he had all these negatives. So that's why he was sentenced to death.
That's so mean.
I know.
Ugh.
So obviously they immediately appealed this to the Arkansas Supreme Court. But the Arkansas Supreme Court upheld the convictions of all three boys. But their story's not done here, Jess.
Oh, good.
In 1996, HBO released a documentary on their case called Paradise Lost: The Child Murders at Robin Hood Hills. And it did not paint the town in the best light.
No.
It said basically the quote was, it was a hellhole and it was blinded by satanic cult fantasies.
Okay.
So this documentary actually started this like huge movement for the boys.
Wow.
To free them for their conviction. And like websites were started, there was petitions and everything. And then in 2003, Vicky, remember Vicky, our good old friend?
Our good pal, Vicky.
Yep. She confessed that everything she had testified was a lie. And that she was afraid that if she hadn't cooperated with the police, they would take her son away. She said that the police told her to say what to say and told her that if she didn't testify how they wanted her to, they would take her son and implicate her in the murders.
Wow.
She says she also knows of at least one piece of evidence destroyed by police.
That's wild.
Yeah. And her son, Aaron, who is now 18, said that the police tricked him into saying what they wanted him to. But to counter this, the police chief says that she's just trying to get her 15 minutes of fame. He doesn't know why she's saying that she lied now. So
it can honestly go both ways, right?
Yeah. So then in 2007, some DNA evidence at the crime scene was retested and nothing matched any of the three boys convicted. But it was found to be, quote, not inconsistent with Stevie's stepdad.
Oh.
But this new evidence was not enough for the judge to grant a new trial.
What?
So they went back to the Supreme Court. Finally, on November 4th, 2010, the Supreme Court said, yes, you should get a new trial. And prosecution offered the boys what is called an Alford plea. Do you know what that is, Jess?
I do not.
So according to newsobserver.com, an Alford plea is a guilty plea in which a defendant maintains they're innocent and does not admit to the criminal activity they are accused of, but admits that the prosecution has sufficient evidence to persuade a judge or jury to find the defendant guilty and thus agrees to be treated as guilty.
Why would anybody sign that?
Well, if they did, they would get time served and be released from jail.
Oh.
So it's kind of like, do you stick to your guns or do you get out of jail?
Yeah. I don't know. What would you do?
I'd probably get out of jail.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably take the plea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But all three had to take the plea. This was the catch. One of them couldn't do it. All three had to.
Oh, why do they always do that?
I don't know. And this is what Damien had to say about waiting to find out if Jason would take it. The prosecutor wanted all three of us, Jessi, Jason, and me, to take the deal, or there would be no deal. Over the years, Jason had grown to love prison. His circumstances were not the same as mine. He had a job. He had befriended the guards and was actually looking forward to next year in prison school. Jason had also said previously that he wasn't willing to concede anything to the prosecutors. I understood that with all my heart, and I knew he still believed that he would be exonerated one day and walk freely through the prison gates. but the state was too corrupt to ever let that happen. I was trapped in a nightmare, chained to someone I couldn't communicate with. I paced back and forth in my prison cell, 2 steps to the door and then 2 steps back. Over and over, I paced at all hours of the day and night. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I couldn't read. I couldn't even sit still. I wept. I cursed. I raged. To see home so close and yet still beyond my reach was pain beyond articulation. But Jason took the plea.
Oh.
He said he did it for Damien.
Aww.
And the 3 were free to go. So Damien Echols now lives in Salem, Massachusetts with his wife, Lori.
Aww.
Jessi, Miss Kelly, is really maintained a low profile. He works in West Memphis, but he doesn't really talk to the media at all. Jason Baldwin, who taught classes to other inmate prisons, helped produce a feature film about the West Memphis case called Devil's Knot, starring Reese Witherspoon.
Wow.
And Colin Firth.
Oh.
He said he says he likes to work on behalf of the wrongly accused and hopes to attend law school.
Aww.
He said, quote, "We all lived through this horrible time in our own way and got through it differently. So now I guess all have a different way of healing." And Damien Echols is actually, he's still a practicing Wiccan, and his website is like Damien Echols Magic or something like that. And he is also an author and I think a director maybe, and he's friends with like Johnny Depp and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And they actually recently petitioned to the state to have the shoelaces that the boys were tied with tested for DNA evidence using this new technology that we have that they didn't previously have. And they are currently waiting to see if they will test it or not. Because they're hoping to, find who actually did this.
Yeah, that would be so cool.
Yeah. So, and I think actually, there's just a story today that my podcast group that I'm in for True Crime Obsessed, she posted about the case and what they're doing with the DNA right now.
Oh.
So she said, this article said that a judge denied their petition to test the new DNA evidence just over 2 weeks ago. But, that's right. I do remember reading this. But she said the judge who denied it said that they denied it because Damien had petitioned them to retest it based on habeas corpus, which is the law for this process. But the judge said that habeas corpus can only be enacted if you are under the custody of the state, which Damien is no longer. But Damien is saying there's 3 stipulations for habeas corpus. 2 of them you have to be under custody of the state. 1 of them you do not. Yeah. So she interpreted the law incorrectly, and they're taking it to the Supreme Court. So that's where we are. Yes, because he wants to get exonerated, right? Like, that's crazy. He took this Alford plea, but he wants to be completely exonerated, not guilty, and maybe figure out who the heck did this, because they do have different theories, and one of them is the stepdad. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes, and I hope I don't understand that, because if you have new DNA or new DNA testing, when you want to get it done to get justice, you know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, that's frustrating. Yeah. So that is the story of the West Memphis Three and who Eddie was kind of based on. I love it so much. Thanks. I hate how it ended up currently, but it was very fascinating to hear about. Yeah. And I changed my lights. Get purple. Oh. And like, it just was not what I was expecting. Yeah. Like, I honestly thought it was like in the 70s and they were adults, and it was just like, bad timing. Yeah. To be weird, Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was bad timing to be weird, but yes. Yeah. For sure. Well, thank you so much. I really loved hearing about that. And it really honestly does remind you of Eddie. Yeah. Like, and much. If you look up Damien, I mean, he doesn't have long hair, but he definitely like embodies that. Oh, I love that.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah.
So let's get going like Hawkins when it gets split up.
Oh no.
Are we ready?
We're ready. Let's do it.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about the Centralia mine. And I got my sources from All That's Interesting, of course.
Of course.
History.com, of course. This one's new. BT.com.
Ooh.
And then the Smithsonian Magazine.
I love the Smithsonian Magazine.
It's great.
It's got so much good information.
So good. And it gave me a lot of this first part of the story because it's kind of going into the history and kind of science behind what's going on. So it's really cool.
Okay, cool. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. So like I had mentioned, my husband had suggested this story to us because we were in the middle of watching Stranger Things, and he is like, oh, this reminds me of this, you should do that. And then Ashley was talking about the West Memphis Three, and I'm like, oh, this is an idea I had. And then we like converged our idea, and this is what we
came up with. Yay.
So thousands of coal fires are burning around the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
They once started underground fires, and they're nearly impossible to reach or extinguish, which really just starts to endanger all the towns and roads that are above it. And this also pollutes the air and soil, and it's potentially worsening global warming.
Cool.
Yeah. So blame this, not mercury. Mines expose coal beds to oxygen. Human-caused fires or spontaneous combustion provide the spark.
Wait, why mercury?
Mercury's in retrograde.
Oh. Okay, sorry. Go ahead. I was like really thinking hard on that one. I was like, I don't get it.
Damn, I was like, I thought that was so clever.
It was. I'm just stupid.
I'm glad you said it. Just kidding. Oh my goodness. The United States, which has the world's largest coal reserves, is home to hundreds of fires stretching from Alaska to Alabama. Is that far?
Yes.
Okay.
That's like this.
What?
Like complete opposite sides and like completely north to south, basically.
Oh, okay. Okay. So literally like us. Awesome. I thought you said like this, and then I just saw you pointing at your microphone.
Just like this, Jessica.
Oh my goodness. All right, so far. Pennsylvania is the worst affected state, and it has at least 38, which is a small number when compared to China and India, where poverty, old unregulated mining practices and uncontrolled development have resulted in waves of Centralias. It's a global catastrophe, they say.
What's a Centralia?
It's the name of the town I'm going to talk about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of just basically referring it to what happened in this town.
Gotcha.
Some of the underground fires are caused by natural causes. When coal, which has been exposed at or near the surface due to erosion, combines with oxygen, a chemical reaction occurs that then produces heat. Low-grade soft coals, which are crumbly and low in iron and carbon, I guess. I don't know why I combined the words. Can spontaneously combust at temperatures as low as 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Soft coal can also be ignited by lighting or a bush.
What?
I wrote by lighting instead of by lightning.
Oh, like lightning hitting a bush.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Words are hard. The fires then burn downward, gaining oxygen through fissures in the rock and microscopic spaces between dirt grains. An underground fire can smolder for years, if not decades, without causing visible damage to the surface, which is crazy.
Yeah, so like, I mean, I wonder if I'm sure they like scientists know, but I wonder if like people like know that it's there.
And that's the scary part, right? Is like, what if the scientists don't even know?
Yeah. And
then all of a sudden your town just goes, hi. That terrifies me. I see those videos of those sinkholes that just like randomly happen when people are driving, and it's terrifying.
Yeah, I used to live in North Carolina, and they had a sinkhole open up in like the back of like one of the malls. Like it just,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was crazy.
How does that happen?
I don't know. It was crazy.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
All right. Well, burning subterranean coal eventually turns to ash, which creates huge underground voids and causing overlying ground to crack and collapse, allowing more air in and fanning the fire. Much of the American West landscape, its mesas and escarpments in the formation of clinker, which is a hard mass of fused stony matter. Surfaces formed in this manner withstand erosion far better than adjacent unfired surfaces, resulting in clinker outcrops. From the Canadian Arctic to Southeast Australia, many ancient fires like those still burn. Scientists believe Australia's Burning Mountain, which is the oldest known coal fire, has been burning for 6,000 years.
Wow. That's
Isn't
crazy.
that insane?
Yeah, that's super crazy.
Explorers mistook the smoking summit for a volcano in the 19th century.
Yeah, I can see why they would do that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, wouldn't that be wild to see? Oh, how cool. Even if the fires are natural, humans increase the scale of them. As it accelerates toward industrialization, China, for example, sources about 75% of its energy from coal. So fires are spreading as a result of this mining of its vast coal fields. Estimates vary, but sometimes some scientists believe that anywhere from 20 million to 200 million tons of carbon dioxide are produced there each year, which equals to about 1% of the total carbon dioxide produced by fossil fuels burned on Earth.
Wow.
Like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Another human intensifier, rural Chinese people hand dig household coal from hundreds of thousands of surface locations before abandoning it when the cavities become too deep. The practice punctures the earth with countless small pits, exposing loose coals and powder inside, making them highly combustible. Mining is not the only human intensifier of the fires. In Indonesia, huge tracts of land once covered by rainforest and underlain by near surface coal is fast being logged, then cleared for agriculture, which I don't know if that's safe.
Yeah, I don't either.
The preferred method, though, is fire. The practice has ignited perhaps 3,000 coal fires since 1982, destroying houses, schools, and mosques. Cool. Heavy smoke carpets much of Southeast Asia, blocking out sunlight and causing crop failures, as well as reducing visibility, in at least one case triggering an oil tanker collision.
Oh, wow.
And the smoke is also implicated in an epidemic of asthma.
Ooh, yeah.
In the early 20th century, Centralia, Pennsylvania had 2,500 citizens and 14 operating coal mines.
Wow, that's a lot of coal mines for like not a lot
Yeah,
of people.
I know. But yeah, basically
Yeah.
be employing the whole town.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, goodness gracious. But by the 1960s, the boomtown era had ended and the majority of the mines had been closed, obviously. Centralia was still home to over 1,000 people, and it was far from going extinct. That was until the coal mine fire broke out.
Ugh.
Like, this is one of my worst nightmares. Centralia's rough and tumble people and seedier side were defined by mining. Members of the Molly Maguires, which were it was a secret society that originated in Ireland and then traveled to American coal mines with Irish immigrants, lived in the town during the 1860s. Isn't that cool?
That is really cool.
I kind of want to do a story on the Molly Maguires now. They sound like badasses.
Yeah, you should. That sounds interesting.
They're thought to have carried out a string of violent crimes in Centralia in the late 1860s. The Molly Maguires were accused of everything, including the murder of the town's founder, Alexander Ray, and the death of the region's first priest.
Dun, dun, dun.
Kind of sounds like our guys, right? Some believe that the Mollies were guilty, while others claim that the Mollies were framed by owners of the mines who feared that the members of the Mollies and other organizations would organize the mine workers into unions.
Oh, okay. I could see either one of those.
Yeah. The crime wave eventually came to an end following a ruthless attempt to control the Mollies and the execution of some of the gang's alleged leaders in 1877. Which is so long ago.
Yeah.
In 1962, a fire that began in a landfill quickly spread to the intricate coal tunnels that coal miners had built thousands of feet below ground. And despite numerous attempts to put out the fire, it caught a coal seam and continues to burn today.
Wow.
Yeah. The federal government even withdrew the town's zip code in the 1980s when Pennsylvania ordered everyone out so that the town's buildings could be destroyed.
Wow. So it no longer has a zip code.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And there are only 6 homes that are now occupied.
Oh.
Still occupied.
Wow.
I know. Even though it's been decades since this fire first began, it still continues to spew poisonous smoke into the air through hundreds of fissures, making the ground it seeps through in constant danger of collapsing.
Oh. And people still live there?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that terrifying? Like,
yeah.
I don't think I could.
No.
Yeah. I mean, I understand why they do it, and I'll get into it, but like, good on
terrifying.
Them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So the town council had met in May 1962 to talk about the new landfill and to address the town's issue with unlawful dumping. So it constructed a 50-foot deep pit earlier in the year that covered a space about the size of a football field. And before the town's yearly Memorial Day celebration, the landfill needed to be cleared because it was becoming overloaded.
Oh.
Council members brought up an apparently simple option at the meeting. What would you do?
Are they just going to throw it into the coal fire?
They're just going to burn it. It initially appeared to solve their problem. I mean, the garbage burned. That's
so
problem.
They know that the underneath of their town is on fire.
I don't think they do.
Oh.
No, I don't think that they know at all.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought they knew.
No. They didn't know. And this is when it catches on fire, but like the coal mines were underneath, right? It's like all these perfect conditions met up with each other and allowed what's going to happen to happen.
Okay.
So The pit was lined with an inflammable material by the fire department to keep the fire contained when it was started on the evening of May 27th, 1962. So seems like they're doing things right. They extinguished the residual flames with water when the landfill's contents were reduced to ash. Residents, though, saw flames once more 2 days later.
Uh-oh.
Then once more on June 4th, a week later.
Uh-oh.
Firefighters in Centralia were perplexed as to the source of the persistent fire. To agitate the remains of the burned trash and find the hidden flames, they utilized bulldozers and rakes. Finally, the root of the problem was found. There was a 15-foot wide and several foot deep hole along the north wall of Centralia's dump site.
Oh, no.
The gap had been covered by waste, so it wasn't filled with a fire-resistant substance.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Additionally, the hole offered a direct route to the maze of former coal mines upon which Centralia was constructed.
So it really was just like the perfect storm.
Yeah. Residents soon started to complain that unpleasant odors were invading their homes and places of business, and they noticed smoke was pouring out of the ground near the landfill specifically. A mine inspector was called in by the town council to examine the smoke, and he found that the amounts of carbon monoxide in them were indeed suggestive of a mine fire. They informed the Leahy Valley Coal Company, the LVCC, in a letter that their village was being destroyed by a fire of unknown origin.
You'd think that would give them a bit more sense of urgency than just sending a letter.
Yeah. Like, send a letter, boy.
Yeah. Like, call.
Well, this was also the 1960s. Yeah.
I mean, they had phones in the 60s. Give them a call. My town's on fire. Like,
give them a call. Yeah.
I just imagine the letter like, to whom it may concern, our town is on fire. Thank you.
That would have been so funny.
Like, what in the world?
I love that. Oh my goodness. So the company that owned the coal mine where the fire was now going met with the council to discuss how to put out the fire as fast and affordably as possible. However, before they could make that decision, sensors picked up deadly levels of carbon monoxide pouring from the mine, and all of the mines in the Centralia region were promptly closed. And I do keep going between Centralia and Centralia only because I heard it pronounced both ways. So
works for me. I've never heard it pronounced anyway. So
okay. I heard it being pronounced two different ways, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I'm just going to
switch back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. Pennsylvania's Commonwealth made multiple attempts to stop the Centralia fire, but none of those were successful. The initial undertaking comprised digging beneath Centralia. Authorities in Pennsylvania intended to remove the trenches in order to expose the flames and put out the fires. However, the architects of this idea significantly overestimated the amount of dirt that would need to be removed, and they eventually ran out of money. Yeah. The second strategy entailed putting out the fire with a solution of water and crushed rock.
Okay.
However, the stone grinding equipment and the water lines both became frozen due to the unusually low temperatures of the time.
Of course.
This just reminds me of Oak Island, just like one problem after the other.
Did I tell you we went to that guy's winery in Traverse City?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was beautiful.
Oh, nice.
Gorgeous. Yeah, my dad was really excited.
Because he watches the show, right?
Yeah, he's like obsessed with it. He's got a hat. He's got it all. He loves it.
Yeah, because this is basically This basically reminds me of that.
Yeah. Just keep trying and trying and trying and nothing's working. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The business was also concerned that the labyrinth of mines could not be fully filled with the amount of mixture they had. So make more.
I feel like at this point, like, you got to do something, people. Gonna have to put a little money into this.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they chose to just fill it halfway in order to give the flames plenty of room to move. But like, don't you want them to go out?
Yeah, move where?
I don't know. It's confusing.
Okay.
Their initiative eventually ran out of funds as well after going nearly $20,000 over budget, and the fire had grown by 700 feet by that point.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they're not even like making a dent in this.
No. But people continued to live about the hot, smoky ground and go about their daily business. By the 1980s, there were still approximately 1,000 people living in the town, and the locals relished the opportunity to produce tomatoes in the dead of winter and avoid clearing their walkways of snow.
I mean, look on the bright side, I guess.
Exactly. Lamar Mervine, the 90-year-old mayor of Centralia at the time, claimed that residents had become accustomed to it. He said, "We'd had other fires before and they'd always burned out. This one hadn't."
Sounds like something a 90-year-old guy would say.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, Grandpa, go take a nap.
I don't wanna. Oh my goodness. However, Centralia, Pennsylvania started to see the impacts of the fire's perpetual flame underground 20 years after it first ignited.
Wow.
As a result of carbon monoxide poisoning, residents started passing out in their homes.
Oh.
The ground turned to ash and the trees started to die. Sidewalks and roads also started to give way. The genuine turning point occurred on Valentine's Day in 1981, when Todd Domboski, then 12 years old, had a sinkhole open beneath him.
Oh.
The sinkhole was 150 feet deep and the ground was scorching.
Oh.
Only by grasping onto an exposed tree root before his cousin arrived to rescue him did he manage to survive.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Poor little guy.
But imagine.
Terrifying.
Like,
terrifying.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania had tried to put out the fire with no luck for more than $7 million by 1983.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so they put money into this.
Yeah, they did. Holy crap.
Yeah, so it was kind of time to leave. At this point, like, nothing was getting done.
Yeah.
So the federal government allocated $42 million for the purchase of Centralia.
Oh.
Demolition of the structures and relocation of the inhabitants in that year. That was a tongue-tied sentence.
So the government paid to help relocate the people? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about that. I was like, if you can't afford to move and you don't have a job, what are you going to do?
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure that's how I understood it, was that the government was helping them leave.
Okay.
Yeah. So a guy named Greg Walter wrote for People, like the magazine, in 1981. He wrote, "Even the dead cannot rest in peace. Graves in the town's 2 cemeteries are believed to have dropped into the abyss of fire that rages below them. Earlier that year, a 12-year-old boy fell into a sudden sinkhole created by the fire, barely escaping death." Like,
whoa. I didn't even think about the graveyards. Holy crap.
Yeah. And just, it's just horrifying. Like, you're just like, you're gone and you still can't have like a happy existence.
Yeah.
Just gonna into a hole.
Yeah, that's awful.
Yes. And like this is going around everybody, and some of them still didn't leave.
Yeah.
There were legal disputes and interpersonal conflicts between neighbors that became the norm throughout the course of the following 10 years.
Oh no.
Mm-hmm. Even a weekly list of those departing was published in the neighborhood newspaper. Very petty. In 1993, hey, our story's tied in.
Oh.
When only 63 people were still living there, Pennsylvania finally used eminent domain in homes these people had owned for years. They formally became squatters.
Oh.
And if you don't know what eminent domain is,
I don't.
Okay. It refers to the power of the government to take private property and convert it into public use. The Fifth Amendment provides that the government may only exercise this power if they provide just compensation to the property owners.
It doesn't seem fair.
Yeah. However, the town continued to exist despite this silly thing. It still had a mayor and a council, and it made its payments. And residents fought valiantly to reside lawfully over the following 2 decades. The state was forced to settle with the remaining residents, who numbered less than 10 people in 2013.
Oh, wow.
Each received $349,500 in addition to the right to keep their homes as long as they live. If they pass away, Pennsylvania will then take possession of the property and demolish any remaining buildings. So it's kind of just like a waiting game at this point before the government rips the town down.
Yeah.
Which is so sad.
Yeah, but I understand. It's dangerous.
Yeah. It's super dangerous. Yeah. Mervine recalled choosing to stay with his wife. Mervine's the 90-year-old mayor. And he was offered a bailout. And he said, I remember when the state came and said they wanted our house. She took one look at that man and said, they're not getting it. Like, what a badass granny.
Yeah.
This is the only home I've ever owned and I want to keep it, he said. He died in 2019 at the 2010 at the age of 93.
Okay.
I saw the 0 and the 9 and I
just added it. Yeah. My cat.
Oh, hi Nimmy. She's so dark.
Yeah.
So his childhood home, he was illegally squatting in it when he died.
Oh.
Yeah. And it was the last remaining building on what was once a 3-block long stretch of row houses.
Wow.
It's just so sad.
Yeah.
Centralia, Pennsylvania has less than 5 residents left. Oh, wow. According to experts, Centralia has enough coal under it to keep the fire going for another 250 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. However, the town's history and infrastructure have offered a unique source of inspiration for artistic pursuits. This deserted Pennsylvania village is the actual Silent Hill that served as the basis for the 2006 horror movie.
Oh, okay.
I've never seen it.
I saw it a long time ago. I can't remember if it's good or not.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember. I think it was, but I don't remember.
Yeah. The movie exploited the location and what happened to Centralia as part of its plot, even though there is no actual Silent Hill town. And for many years, Route 61, which goes into the town center, was given new vitality. This 3/4-mile stretch was altered by artists to become the Graffiti Highway, which is a popular local roadside attraction.
Oh, cool.
It's actually really cute. I saw some pictures.
Yeah.
People from all around the nation traveled there to make their mark, despite the pavement smoking and cracking.
Oh, jeez.
By the time a private mining firm bought the property and filled the road with dirt in 2020, the surface had almost entirely been painted.
Wow.
Just so cool.
Yeah.
Today, It's better known as a destination for travelers hoping to catch a sight of one of the poisonous smoke plumes rising from the ground, where a once bustling main thoroughfare was lined with long gone shops that surrounded forest creeped in on. People have called it a ghost town, but I look at it as a town that's now full of trees instead of people. And truth is, I'd rather have trees than people.
Same.
So funny. And that was one of the residents in the town from 2008.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. I thought you were saying that. That's funny.
Oh no. I wish I had wrote that now. Oh my goodness. So yeah, that's the story on like the Centralia mine fire.
Crazy.
Like it's insane.
Yeah,
just
that's
like
crazy.
Ground opened up and just
yeah.
Wild.
Yeah, and then now we're gonna see next season in Stranger Things why their ground opened up. Da, da, da.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be so cool. Speaking of Stranger Things, I have some facts.
Oh.
Yeah. We're just gonna move into them because I don't know how else to segue that.
Okay, let's do it.
So the Montauk Project was a purported U.S. military project that featured experiments on children involving mind reading, mind control, and time travel.
Oh.
And it's where the show got its original name of Montauk.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And remember when I talked about MK Ultra, I believe I also like briefly touched on the Montauk Project. And I'm pretty sure that was episode 90.
Interesting. Okay.
So if you want to hear more of MK Ultra, listen to episode 90. Little plug. An electrical engineer from Montauk named Preston Nichols claims to have contributed to the project.
Oh.
In season 4, Freddy Krueger actor Robert Englund makes an appearance after approaching the Duffer Brothers about a role in the show. And he's notably one of the 1980s most famous supernatural bad guy.
Yeah.
The fact that he came to us in a season that's so deeply inspired by the Nightmare series and by his performance, especially in those movies, it felt just like fate, Matt Duffer said.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's like, it was okay. This is totally meant to be.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you've watched the newest season, he's the one that played Victor Creel, the guy that had the no eyes.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so he was the old guy.
Yeah.
With no eyes. And I didn't even realize it. And Kyle was like, yeah, that's what's his face. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even know.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So that was a cool little kind of tie-in. I love that. I love it. And it also reminded me of Hannibal too. So
yeah, like in the South type of thing and the way he was acting and stuff.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I definitely got that vibe.
And especially when like they went into that like little hallway dungeon room where they all are separated. Yeah, that reminded me of that too.
Yep.
So yeah, I thought that was really funky.
Yeah.
And Hopper is based off of Indiana Jones. There's a hat scene in season 2. And both characters have a similar disheveled heroism and drawl.
Okay.
And David Harbour, who plays Hopper, he grew up in the 80s and was a huge fan of the character and claims to have seen Raiders of the Lost Ark 13 times in theater when it first came out.
Aww.
It was really cute.
Yeah, I love that.
The Duffer Brothers described David's intention to channel Indiana Jones, even going as far as to want to recreate one of the archaeologist's most famous scenes in the show, which is The Rock coming at him.
Yes.
And they weren't sure if he was serious or not about wanting to do that.
I bet he was.
Oh, probably. And the last fun little fact I have, Billy Hargrove, who first appeared in season 2 and became the villain, the hottest villain ever. He's a wild card, and the guy that plays him is Australian.
Oh.
And his name is Dacre Montgomery.
Dacre. Interesting. I like that name.
Isn't it a cool name?
Yeah.
I love the name Dacre.
Yeah.
He seems to be kind of like just as wild and like fun as Billy.
Character. That's fun.
Yeah, just obviously not as like sadistic and horrible.
Yeah. I would hope not.
Yeah. He did an audition tape for the show.
Mm-hmm.
And he channeled Kiefer Sutherland in Stand By Me in his audition tape. But we also see him dancing in a thong to Come On Eileen. And I can link the YouTube video as well.
Okay.
If you guys want to watch it, because it was actually so good.
Yeah.
And he literally sounded like Kiefer Sutherland.
Oh, that's funny.
It was so good.
Yeah.
And him dancing shirtless is like for 2 seconds at the end. It's honestly
never bad.
Much. Yeah. So I thought those were fun little facts that didn't have a dark and twisty history. So that was cool.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
You got a joke for me?
I don't. Do you have one?
I don't.
Well, we could use the facts as our joke.
Okay. Oh, or we could did you hear the Chrissy song, Chrissy Wake Up song?
Yeah.
So good.
It was stuck in my head literally from the moment I woke up yesterday all day long.
It's stuck in my head, just like
I can't get it out. Yes.
Days. It's so funny, and like the way that they totally remade Separate Ways, just like with the different bass beats. I'm obsessing over that song right now. It's so good. And it went so well with like what was happening in the show.
Yeah, it did.
It was amazing.
It was, yeah.
I love it.
Well, we really want to thank you guys for sticking with us for 100 episodes now. Yay! This is amazing. When we started it off, I don't know that I ever thought we would get to 100. That's crazy.
It's wild to me to think, because when people ask how we met, and I'm like, oh, through a podcast group online.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
We're complete strangers when we started this.
Yeah. I reached out. Oh, excuse me. It's 9:40 here, and I'm old and tired. But I started a podcast a couple years ago. I only got one episode out, and then my co-host bailed on me. And I've been wanting to start one up ever since. And so I kind of like reached out, and Jessica had commented on it. So of course I went and stalked your profile to make sure you weren't like a weirdo and see if you seemed cool. And you did. And here we are.
Am I everything you dreamed I would be?
Everything and more.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll be able to do 100 plus more episodes for you guys.
We would love that.
Yeah.
And our video quality will get better. And we get better, but this is very nerve-wracking.
We were both really nervous to do video, but yes. We hope that you like it. Let us know what you think. If you liked it, if you're like, oh my God, keep your ugly faces off. We just want to hear your voices. Let us know. Yeah. But we appreciate all of you guys, all of our listeners, all the comments you leave us. You know, I definitely know, people left comments like, you guys seem like my friends that I get to hang out with. And I definitely get like that with my podcast. Like when I listen to Let's Go to Court, I'm like, oh, they're the best friends.
Yeah.
So I definitely understand that. And we just love and appreciate you guys so much. And just want to thank you for being so loyal and listening to us and letting us continue to do this, because we really enjoy it.
Yeah, it's a really fun like thing to do on the side.
Yeah, it is.
We're both like moms. We both work. Like things can get intense and overwhelming. Like today I was just very socially drained.
Yeah.
And from work, and I just couldn't deal with social interaction at home.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. And it's just like a nice little escape, like a nice little treat that we have.
Yeah,
Once
exactly.
a week. Yeah.
And it's
So
really fun. So thank you so much. Like
yeah.
Ashley said, we love the comments that you guys leave us, and we love the bad ones too. So
yeah, we learn from them and get better. And that's what we want to do.
exactly.
We want to get better.
Yeah.
So,
and if you guys have any stories that you want to share with us, any true crime stories, any ghost stories, cool like family history stories, we would love to hear them.
yeah.
You can email us at historiesandmysteries515@gmail.com. Where else?
You can also Facebook or Instagram us. We are Histories and Mysteries Podcast on Instagram, Histories and Mysteries on Facebook.
And if you're listening to this through your eardrums on Spotify and you're not watching our beautiful faces, we're going to post a link to it in our show notes for you if you want to go watch it. And if you want to rate and review us, you can do so on Apple Podcast or Spotify.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. So again, thank you guys so much. And we look forward to bringing you 2 new stories next week.
Bye.
Bye.